Okay, finally, I do want to respond formally to the Senate recall effort. And I'm going to go ahead and hand these out. I hope I have enough for everybody. So last meeting, some of you were here. Monica Moreno and Diana Bonilla presented a recall petition. And since I had not seen the recall petition until it was distributed at the Senate meeting, I wasn't able to prepare a written response until afterwards. However, after hearing their presentation and also viewing the document, I explained that the petition was based on misinformation and events that had not occurred, and as confirmed by the Chancellor in his email of that same day. Furthermore, this recall petition also demands to effectively nullify the withdrawal of a March 15th letter to lay off an administrator. In other words, it's saying you need to lay off this administrator, the Dean of CTE Workforce Development, Kathy Braithwaite. Since President Perez made the decision to not lay her off, he has to respond to that demand. That's not in my power. I do not have the power to lay anyone off at this campus. Okay? So the petition makes 8 allegations, and I summarized them and I addressed them in order. The first one, I think the most important one, is that the reorganization plan that the President came up with did not require consultation, and that I misled the Senate about having any contact with the Chancellor about the reorganization. So I just want to say about that the President first presented his plan to the Senate at the February Senate meeting, 2/16, through an email that I received 1 hour before the Senate meeting. He then came to the meeting and explained his plan. And his plan involved a permanent budget cut, which involved eliminating an administrative position, the Dean of CTE and Workforce Development, which supports key vocational programs at Mission College. This proposed budget cut did not go through any shared governance committee for approval. The elimination of this position required a March 15 letter, which was on the agenda for the board meeting 3 weeks later. Since there was very little time to react and respond to this proposal, I sent a copy of the President's plan to all faculty and asked for their feedback. I got about 10 responses, and 80% of those were against eliminating the position. One was in favor and one was kind of non-committal. Furthermore, several faculty indicated that if we were going to cut an administrative position, faculty should be consulted on which position would have the least impact on the academic programs and result in most budget savings. In fact, they said, you know what, there's a dean that makes a lot more money than this dean. I'm not going to name who it is. Okay, why don't we look at that one? There's a dean that was hired more recently. There's a dean that, job description, is not essential to our mission. So I had that sort of, feedback as well. I want to say that a budget cut of this nature is a matter of consultation under Title V, Section 53-200, our shared governance agreement, the Budget Committee Charter, and accreditation standards. Okay? And I put the language in here. All right? So basically, the Academic Senate is an organization. One of our functions is to make recommendations for institutional planning and budget development under Title V. We also have a shared governance agreement. It says the same thing, and also that the Senate should be consulted regarding the filling of administrative positions. We have a budgeting planning committee that says that its role is to establish criteria for the allocation and or reduction of expenditures and or budgets. And the accrediting standard says this: the institution defines and follows its guidelines and processes for financial planning and budget development, with all constituencies having appropriate opportunities to participate in the development of institutional plans and budgets. Okay? So this is critical for people to understand. Now today it might be the Dean of CTE. Tomorrow might be the Dean of Student Services. It might be your position or your position. The key thing here is that there has to be process. Faculty cannot be written out of this process. Okay? And we have not only a duty, but a legal obligation to uphold process. Now, if you want to set a precedent that is going to roll over and let the president do whatever they want, then elect one, okay? But I promise you that I will not do that, and I will uphold my obligation as Senate President as long as I'm Senate President, okay? Now, the second issue that I was not forthcoming about my communication with the Chancellor, that is not true. At the Senate meeting, Ed Raskin asked me if I had met with the Chancellor to oppose the reorganization plan, and I replied that I had not. As the Chancellor stated in his email, I never met with him to oppose this plan. He contacted me after the board meeting, after the President pulled the letter, to discuss another matter that had come to his attention regarding Mission College. And during the course of our conversation, it was briefly mentioned in passing. And I didn't express my opinion about the plan during that conversation. Number 3, that I called a closed meeting with the Executive Board to draft a resolution without notifying faculty and did not inform the President. A resolution can be drafted by any senator without calling an open meeting. Okay? Furthermore, any faculty member can address the board during open session without informing the President. That happened at the board meeting that we had here at Mission. That I requested to meet with the board in closed session. Let me clarify this. The board does not allow anybody to be present during closed session discussions. It's not possible, okay? In which personnel or legal matters are discussed. However, anybody can address the board during open session on a matter that they're going to discuss in closed session. The record will show that my request to address the board was withdrawn. I never addressed the board in either closed session or open session. And later, I learned that the only person who addressed the board on this matter was a Teamsters representative, who argued that the proposal to eliminate a dean's position and assign her duties to a non-Teamsters member was a violation of written agreements between the district and the Teamsters. Okay. So I don't know if this had anything to do with the President's decision, but that's the only person who spoke. 5, that a resolution was discussed and formulated in secret and that the resolution was voted down. Again, a resolution can be formulated by any senator without calling for an open meeting, and furthermore, it was not voted down, it was tabled, it was withdrawn because, in part, it was moot. The letter had been withdrawn and the resolution was asking for the President to reconsider. So it was really a moot point. That my actions undermine President Perez's ability to make and execute decisions in the best interest of the faculty of the college. President Perez made the decision to withdraw this letter from the board agenda on his own accord. He is responsible and accountable for his own actions. I do not wish to speculate on his motives for withdrawing the agenda item. I have asked him to communicate the reasons for his decision to faculty, but he has yet to do so. In fact, he was here at the last Senate meeting, and he said nothing. So, you know, I can't force him to say or explain why he did it. The Chancellor did state in his email that the President's decision was made solely by him, and that he made that decision because the savings that were expected to accrue could not be realized. So again, I have to take what the Chancellor says on face value. I don't know if that is the entire reason or not, but that's what the Chancellor said. And the President really hasn't said anything to this date. That I violated Article 4 of the Constitution, which states before matters reported by the Senate to the board, and the Chancellor must be apprised of its nature. Since nothing was reported to the board, this argument has no basis. And that my actions violated the Brown Act and that faculty members were not invited to this meeting. I'm not sure what that meeting means. I'm assuming that it's referring to a closed session meeting. Again, I did not attend the closed session meeting, so there could be no violations of Brown Act. So again, this is my response, and I don't know if there are any questions.